You alright guys, how's it going? It is David Claydon from KZR Racing once again, and welcome back to my F1 23 My Team career mode for round number 3 at the Australian Grand Prix. If you did miss the last episode, do feel free to check out my channel. All the episodes will be there in the playlist. For last episode, spoiler alert for those who weren't watching, we had a bit of a madness. We had a first corner crash that resulted in a red flag. We also got very lucky on that red flag because we picked up a puncher in that incident as well, a rear left puncher, but we got away with it and ended up P5 on the restart, fighting the Red Bulls of all teams. The Red Bulls had no pace because it wasn't just me that was as quick as Perez before, spoiler alert, my front wing got damaged, but also the cars behind us, the Alpines, the Alpines, the Aston Martins and the Williams of Albon as well, but halfway into the race after that restart, we ended up retiring with a mechanical failure on lap 8, I believe it was. And if we go across to the messages, you can see we have a research and development. We received 320 resource points to compensate for that mechanical failure. And apparently, according to the team, it was an ERS fault that ended up hampering us. And if we go to the vehicle, yeah, there it is. It was the energy store that ended up giving up. One of only 2 of them, by the way, I should point out. Everything else survived, but the rest of it, the energy store, we're already down to our second energy store. Only 2 races into the season. So that's going to be a huge amount of fun. In regards to the everything else on the activity timelines, we have a few bits. We have department focus on the aero and a durability equipment upgrade, just to give a little bit of extra morale and resource points. Department focus on the aerodynamics is going to cost us on all the other departments, so I'm not going to do that. We have a sim racing event for the driver, our second driver, sponsor visit headquarters, sponsor advertisement and power team building. So we haven't got anything to normally we have some form of driver training for our second driver, but not this time. So we're going to what we're going to do is we're going to do the team building on the powertrain, the sponsor for the vehicle to get us some much needed team acclaim and cash, and then I think what we'll also do is we will do, it's a choice between the visitor headquarters and the durability equipment upgrade. I'm going to go for the team acclaim, the visit sponsor headquarters, just to get the acclaim back that we need. In regards to everything else, I'm not too sure. If we go to R&D progress, we're just waiting for one of the minor upgrades to the chassis, so I'm pretty certain with our resource points that we do have, we can get moving on a couple of other upgrades. So we have the rear wing downforce upgrade. That is very handy. So with the resource points we have actually got 3,500 resource points, so I'm going to go straight in with another drag reduction upgrade. That's going to come just before the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, so that'll be very handy for the long straights of Baku. So we'll get that under development, and then the next one, if we have a look at the powertrain, not a lot to go by, so we'll go for the cheap engine, the only one we can do, which is the minor engine power. It's only 270 resource points, so it's not going to be too much of a hit. And again, that'll come in handy for Baku. Every little bit of power does help. So we just got to wait for that to come through. In terms of facilities, we've only got 1.14 million, so I don't particularly want to go too crazy here, but I may think about doing a second one on the fabrication at the stage 1 on fabrication, but that's 2.25 million, so that may have to wait a little while, especially considering we're getting reduced income on the resources and cash and acclaim for driver and team. So we're just going to go through, and we have a durability department event. And this is an internal audit of the durability department has brought to light poorly allocated funds that could be used elsewhere in the department to improve productivity. Alternatively, we can relocate these funds for our R&D. Well, there's no... We get... department productivity is going to drop our gearbox durability, the cost for the gearbox durability improvement, or we can relocate R&D and get 400 resource points. I'm going to lean that way. The durability is not something I'm too focused on at the moment. But speaking of which, I will go because I don't want anything like this to happen again. That's not what I wanted to go on. I wanted to go on here because we've only got two factory. We only got two factory upgrades from the engine supplier Renault, so we're going to go for the only one we can, which is the gearbox durability improvements. We'll do that, and then if we look at the facilities as well, can we do the quality? Yes, we can do the quality control. So we're going to do the quality control as well on the durability, get that up to spec 1 at least. I prefer doing quality control first because it's a little bit more of a guarantee you'll get the parts when they're supposed to be in. So that's very handy. That's a handy thing to take into account. And we do get our rear floor under trace. So with that, we'll go across to the R&D and we'll see if we can get another chassis upgrade on the go. We now have. We could do the weight reduction, and we also have tyre wear, the tyre blankets as well. But with the third one on weight redistribution ready as well. But I am going to go for the weight reduction on the monocoque structure, and that's not going to be until the Miami Grand Prix, unfortunately. So we're going to miss out on this one for Azerbaijan. We can't rush it because that requires spec 2 on somewhere in the department. So it's going to be, we're going to have to miss out on this one for Azerbaijan, but we have got engine power and drag reduction on the way, so we can't really complain too much about that one. It's going to be, a little bit more difficult still with the reduced acclaimed and resources and cash injection, but not much. We're pretty confident that we can make some progress. So we're going to head into Q1 right now to the end of the first flying lap, and unfortunately again traffic issue, we caught up to Verstappen as he gets out of the way, but that really that still cost us quite badly in the long run, even though we still managed to put in a really competitive time. We're currently still in the top 10. We're P9 at the moment, and we did go a second time as well, just in case we have this classic F1 problem of skipping to the end of qualifying and that go from where we finished down to like P17 or whatnot. But we go again, and we set a really good time actually. We're going to P6, so we got some good pace, but I know that the other top teams haven't really turned up the wick yet. So we go again. We're going to the first lap of Q2. We use the first set of tyres we used in Q1, a scrub set, so that gives us a good time of P11. And then this is the start of the second Q2 lap towards the end, and we're heading down towards turn 3, and we take it a little bit tentatively through there, and then we start getting a little bit of. We got a snap of oversteer, but we did correct it. We've lost a little bit of time, but nothing that we can't make up. But getting a bit wide on the curb there, and another snap of oversteer as we come back onto the track, and unfortunately that just ruined the lap altogether, falling nearly a second behind. So unfortunately it's only P12 on the road, unfortunately, but we probably could have had we probably did have a reasonable 1 lap pace to get into the top 10, but unfortunately that's end of set to 1 botching that last corner didn't really help matters. But P12 is still a good position, so if we get a good enough start we can potentially fight for some decent points. So without any further ado, let us go into the Australian Grand Prix.
This circuit missed a few years off the F1 calendar, and we missed Albert Park. So welcome back, and it's great to be back in Melbourne. Welcome to the Australian Grand Prix. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit, 3.28 miles around, with the streets making for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 14 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Hamilton, Russell, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Norris, Gasly, Albon, Davidson, Joe, Oscar Piastri, Bottas, Magnussen, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Drugovich, Sargent, Drugovich. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, the regulations aren't new anymore, but the teams and the drivers are still coming to terms with them. I firmly believe it's also track specific. We've seen some wheel-to-wheel racing throughout the year. Some tracks lend themselves better to it than others. I'd like to see it at every race in the whole season. Is that too much to ask?
Right, on the grid now for the ready to get ready for the race. We're just going to go into the race strategy. Again, another one stop with potential of going from soft to medium, which is what we're doing. But we're going to go a little bit different. We're going to drop the fuel down to just over 1 lap. And then we're going to move the soft tyre stint, the first stint, back 1 lap. So we're going to get that undercut, hopefully. That's going to give us somewhat of an advantage as we progress later on in the race, hopefully gain a few positions that way on the fresher rubber early. It means we'll probably be defending later on in the race, but I'd much rather be in that position than having to catch up to someone and wrecking my tyres in the process. But as we head off on the formation lap, not sure what to expect up front, really. I mean, the Red Bulls have locked out the front row again, but if their pace is as bad as what it was during the Saudi Arabian GP, it could be a more interesting than what we think. I mean, I'm sure that Codemasters will be bringing out a patch at some point in the near future that will fix the performances of all these cars to make them more true to real life. It won't be any time. It won't be any time this weekend with the Canadian GP going on. It'll probably be after the first month of the game release. But for now, though, it's a nice jumbled up field from like 4th in the constructors down to the bottom. It's actually all the performances are actually levels, so it's making for some interesting racing going on. But enough with that. We're going to go now to 5 red lights for the Australian Grand Prix here at Albert Park. 5 red lights are out and we are underway, and we get an absolutely electric start. We get past Gasly on the inside, Sainz on the inside as well. He's had a shocker of a start. We brake really heavy into turn 1, nearly clatter into the side of George Russell, and that's cost us all our momentum. Ocon gets us around the outside, and Alonso is now alongside us as well around the outside, heading towards turn 3. We're going to try and fight this. We brake a little bit early because we obviously don't want to get caught up, and Alonso forces us onto the curb. He's not having anything of us. He doesn't want to get stuck behind what he believes is a slower car if he's got a good chance of scoring a podium this race, which, judging from that aggressive driving, is not out of the question. But we've got up into P8 ahead of Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz. But going down this new section, the revamped section of Albert Park, I completely forget to deploy my ERS, and I get swamped by both Norris and Sainz former teammates as they just completely blitz past me. I was too busy checking for damage because I thought I might have damaged my front wing in that brief clash with Fernando Alonso, but in doing so, I completely ignored my ERS deployment and ended up paying for it. As now we go on to the next lap, starting the next lap, and Sainz is now on the move. He's going to go around the outside. Norris tries to squeeze him out, but Sainz keeps his nose in, forces the issue through turn 4, And he's going to get him around the outside into turn 5, clean as you like. He's got some good pace there, Carlos Sainz, in this Ferrari. And that move, that no-nonsense move, is evidence of that, as now that's allowed us to catch up to Norris. So hopefully if we can stick with Norris, we might be in a shot with scoring decent points this race. But again, 2 laps later onto lap 4, Sainz is not finished yet. He's already latched onto the back of Esteban Ocon in the Alpine and moves out alongside. DRS has been activated, but it's not open. Sainz obviously wants to make sure this move sticks and beautifully slides it down the inside of the chicane. Now turns 9 and 8, and that's going to see him up into P7. He's now going to chase after his compatriot Fernando Alonso. Meanwhile, up front on that same lap, Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen has seemingly got no pace, and he's now under attack from his teammate. And Sergio Perez is going to go round the outside into the final sector, and he's going to make that move stick. He does. Into the last few corners he goes round the outside, and now Hamilton and Leclerc are going to be watching to make sure, see if they can capitalise on this. The Red Bulls, early race, they've got the qualifying pace, but early race pace, it seems, they just don't seem to have any. They've been really slow off the mark, and now they're fighting each other. It's just allowing Hamilton and Leclerc, and even Russell in the background is catching them. Catching them. So it's really difficult to know what's going on with the Red Bulls. But one again later on in this lap 5, deja vu it seems. Verstappen, he's now going to repeat the move on Sergio Perez, pulls out to the left hand side and going to go round the outside with this new revamped corner here. I can't remember which number it is, but round the outside seems to be the more favoured means of overtaking into that corner. You just can't see, because of the way the corner's now angled, you just can't seem to defend as aggressively as you want to down the inside. So, without making a really brash dive bomb. So, it's going to be an interesting race. We've already got loads of action so far, and it's already lap 6 from our point of view. We've slowly been catching up to the back of Lando Norris. We did have a brief threat from Albon behind us, but we've managed to see it off, and now into the chicane. We're going to go down the inside of Lando Norris. Bit of wheel banging there. We give him a little bit more room on the second part. He hops over the curb and loses momentum, and that's going to give us the P9 in this Grand Prix on lap 6. We're only 2 laps away from our pit stop. Start of the next lap. Lap 7 will be 2 laps until we need to come in. And now on said lap 8, Leclerc is going to look for a move down the inside of Sergio Perez. But Max Verstappen's finally shook himself awake and checked out of this Grand Prix. And now Leclerc is going to come under attack from George Russell. He's lost momentum. We didn't see it, but Hamilton has dropped to the back of this queue now behind Leclerc and his teammate. And George Russell is going to take advantage and go around the outside. It got the inside for turn 4, and that is George Russell up into P3 of the Grand Prix. But further back at the start of that same lap, Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz have been fighting. Sainz has gotten up into P6 of himself. Fernando Alonso, quick reactions to save his race there. He lost the back end and tried to move out from behind Carlos Sainz and almost took himself and his compatriot out of this Grand Prix. So Fernando Alonso is certainly in the mood, but he can't keep doing stuff like that if he's going to want to aim for potential podium position in this Grand Prix. So end of lap 8, back to our point of view. We're now going to come in for our one and only stop. We're going to be the only driver stopping on this lap. So that's ideal for us because we're going to have a nice empty pit lane. There's no chance of being overtaken by other people making their stops. But this should, if it works out right, it's going to drop us to the back of the field. But I'm okay with that because we are going to have a nice pocket of clean air to work with and really extract the most of the tyre performance to hopefully make up some places on the pit stop phases, which the first lap of the pit stops for everyone else is going to be happening now. So our outlap has been a pretty good outlap actually, and there's Albon, who was close up behind us when we were busy defending from Norris, and now we've got a 2.1 second gap to Alexander Albon as we move later on. And Max Verstappen is out of the Australian Grand Prix. The race leader is retiring. At the end of the second sector, out of the chicane, his engine, he's got technical failure. There's no smoke coming from his engine, but he's going to pull off to the right-hand side, and that's going to allow both Mercedes to take the lead. But both of them have still got to stop. Everyone else has behind them has stopped, aside from Sainz and Fernando Alonso. So, Leclerc and Perez have also stopped. And now the safety car has been deployed. So that's going to change everything. Our potential undercut advantage has now been wiped out. And it's because Nico Hülkenberg has also retired from the race. He's pulled up on the right-hand side. I think that was exactly where Verstappen pulled up. So 2 cars retiring in the exact same place has completely thrown this wide open for everyone. It's happened during the pit stop phase, so no one's like losing out on a tyre strategy potentially, but in actual fact this has actually worked out quite poorly for us, because now I have to stick to a delta time for most of that lap, and as you can see on the right hand side, Lando Norris, who we overtook and was ahead of before we pulled into the pits, has now gained on us and gotten back ahead of us. So that's we've lost out in that scenario, but we are going to have a little bit of fortune fall our way, because if we, when we cut later on to the end of this lap under the safety car, you can see the safety car's bunched everyone up. But if you just saw there, the 2 Mercedes there, they did not pit before the safety car came out. They stayed out, and now they're going to fall to the back of the field. They're double stacking. They have to. This is their scheduled pit stop. But now they're going to fall to the back of the field, and that's just given everyone behind them 2 free positions. So now Perez leads the race ahead of Leclerc, and Fernando Alonso is the top 3. Meanwhile, what was P9 for us is now P7 on the road. So we've just gained 2 free positions with Albon behind us, who we know we've got some good pace over. But we don't want to be hanging around with our Albon. He's on the medium tyres like us. I want to get past Norris ASAP. I don't want to be hanging around, so we go down the inside. But apparently, that's an illegal overtake. So we've got to hand that position back. We pull over out of the way and slow down to allow Lando Norris to go back past us and avoid, as you can see, the swarm of Albon and Gasly directly behind us. I don't understand what happened there, but that briefly flashed up that it was an illegal overtake, which I don't understand how that was. We made a clean move down on the inside. We didn't force Lando off or anything, but that was a weird thing. I don't know if there's I don't know if the ruling system in the game has been changed for it to do that. But we now move on several laps later onto lap 14 now. Not much has happened. We've been chasing down Lando Norris, and now we're going to make a daring move down the inside into this new corner we talked about earlier. We bang tyres on the exit as Lando gets the switch back, and now we're going to have to try and ease our way around the outside into the next corner, which we do. So we finally get past Lando Norris. We're now up into P6 of the Australian Grand Prix. We've got some good points here, but now it depends on if our tyres last that long, because Lando's on the hards, we're on the mediums. Our tyres could wear out, but someone who's not worrying about their tyres is Sergio Perez. He's now going to move to overtake Charles Leclerc around the outside of that same corner that we overtook Lando Norris on, and he does it. That's a favoured move of the AI at that exact corner around the outside. And as you can see, 1 lap later on lap 17, it's going to be the same for Fernando Alonso. He was overtaken by Carlos Sainz, but now he's going to return the favour around the outside, same as Perez, of a Ferrari. And that's going to be him up into the podium. So that Aston Martin, in the hands of Alonso, has got some really, really good pace, it seems. But I don't think it's going to be over for them, and neither is it going to be over for us. Our tyres are not doing too well as Lando Norris comes back at us into turn 1. We let him go. We want to get the cleaner line. As we get back into the slipstream and pull to the inside of the next corner, and a little bit of wheel bangs. I go really late on the brakes there, probably a little bit later than what I should have. So I really didn't mean to do that to Lando. But he's going to come back at us later on in this lap. We're not doing too well. We are slow through that chicane, and we've got no ERS to protect ourselves, where the Lando Norris is going to go clean around the outside. And that corner, I just don't have the confidence with these tyres anymore to make a lunge like that. So I have to let Lando go to preserve what advantage we do have in terms of points, because I don't want to end up breaking a bit of my car, especially with Gasly, Albon and Bottas not too far behind, and Guan Yu Zhou for that matter, and Stroll. So we're leading quite the train of cars onto the penultimate lap as we try and follow Lando through the first couple of corners through to the next. We're going to head into turn 3 now. We're going to try and make this. We're going to try and make the same move. We're a little bit easier and more cautious on the brakes this time. Don't run into Lando. Give him the space. He gives us the space in return as we go around the outside of turn 4 and back up into P6. But this isn't going to last. I know that. I know for a fact now, because while I may be quick through this next sequence of corners, that chicane at the end of the back straight into the subsequent DRS zone is going to be a massive, massive problem for me, as it is for Sergio Perez on the penultimate lap. He's under attack from Charles Leclerc with 2 laps to go. He's going to try and challenge for the lead of the Australian Grand Prix as he's going to go round the outside. Same old place, same old move, but it works very, very effectively, and Charles Leclerc has retaken the lead of the Australian Grand Prix. Meanwhile, same lap back with us at POV. Again, no ERS, very slow out that chicane, and the inevitable result is, again, Lando Norris overtakes us around the outside, and again, I just don't have the confidence in the braking with these tyres. I can't make a dive bomb like that and end up wrecking both of our cars and throwing away good points. I have to play this smart. So I know throughout the first series of the lap, I am pretty quick compared to the AI, so if I could just stick with Lando enough and try and make another move on the last lap somewhere, hopefully I can take back that P6. But on the last lap, we're going to follow Carlos Sainz as he closes up to the back of Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. We can see as well Perez is trying to chase down Charles Leclerc, but I don't think he's close enough. Carlos Sainz is close enough to Fernando Alonso. He's going to open the DRS, move to the outside, and here we go again. Eat, sleep, rave, repeat. Round the outside of this corner. Fernando gets pinched towards the apex of the corner. Sainz has a much more open corner to make his move round the outside, and he takes back P3, a double podium for Ferrari on the very last lap of the Australian Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc, it's a drag race to the line. Perez is trying to chase him down, but it's not going to be enough. Charles Leclerc wins the Australian Grand Prix ahead of Sergio Perez. Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso round out the top 4. Back-to-back wins for Charles Leclerc in this 2023 campaign. 2 out of 3 for the Monegasque. And meanwhile, ourselves, we're in the same position. Just this little kick of oversteer on the exit of the last corner as we try and chase down Lando Norris, but it's not going to be enough for P6. P7 it is, but I can't complain. Our first points for the team in this career mode. P7, very, very happy with that. Very happy. Driver of the day as well. We did put on a bit of a clinic for the fans there.
The superb Australian Grand Prix comes to an end then, and it's a thoroughly deserved victory. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
What a race. At the end of the day, it is all about raw pace, and our winner had it in spades today.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari, do it again.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the confirmation there. Charles Leclerc wins the Australian Grand Prix ahead of Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz rounding out the podium. Fernando Alonso just missing out gut-wrenchingly there in 4th. Esteban Ocon and steady in P5. Lando Norris just edging ourselves out there in P6 and ourselves in P7, followed by Pierre Gasly. Alexander Albon picking up Williams' first points of the season, as has Valtteri Bottas for Alfa Romeo rounding out the top 10. And then you can see in the standings, Charles Leclerc will lead the Drivers' Championship with 2 wins in a row back-to-back for himself, ahead of Sergio Perez. Max Verstappen, great start to the season in Bahrain, but the last 2 races have just had no luck. He got that 5-second penalty for that clash with Carlos Sainz at the start of the race in Saudi Arabia, and now an engine failure and DNF in this race has definitely hurt him. He's now pretty much half the points of Charles Leclerc, so he's going to need a good result in Baku to bounce back from that. Lewis Hamilton still in 4th place despite his non-finish after the Mercedes bungled the strategy, but that affected more George Russell than anyone, because he's now been overtaken in the standings by Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz. Esteban Ocon, Lando Norris and Lance Stroll round out the top 10, and there we are just in P11, tied on points with Pierre Gasly on 6. So we've had a very good race, this one. I don't know how long that's going to last though, because we did, realistically, if the Mercedes hadn't botched the strategy, that would have been P9 at the most, which would have only been 2 points, but points are points, I'm not complaining. And then the Constructors, you can see for yourself, Ferrari now take the lead of the Constructors' Championship with Red Bull in second by 2 points as well. So that's going to be an interesting fight if Ferrari can keep up this momentum and not be, well, Ferrari. Mercedes that's holding solid in P3, Aston Martin are now in P4, Alpine, McLaren, ourselves in P7 with 6 points ahead of Williams, and Alfa Romeo also scoring their first points of the season, and then AlphaTauri and Haas, the only 2 teams yet to score. But yeah, very good race. I've now been made acutely aware of our tyre wear, because the tyre wear around Melbourne was not good towards the end of that that second stint. We may have gotten a good undercut. Well, it was still a good undercut. We still made up places technically, but it could have been more if the safety car hadn't have come out, because we would have been going that much quicker. Instead, we were held to a delta, unfortunately, which meant we still came out behind Lando. Little frustrating, but as is the way with safety cars. Unfortunately, having 2 cars retire in the exact same spot is going to warrant a safety car no matter what you do. It's unfortunately just one of those things at the moment, but we can't complain. As you can see, we got a whole load of stuff coming for before the next race in Baku. But it's been all in all, first points of the season. Very happy with that. We had a good result in that. We just need to make sure we can keep those results coming. So for now, guys, I hope you did enjoy this episode. Do feel free to leave a like and share this video around. It really does help. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of those videos. I'm David Claydon of KZR Racing, and I will see you next time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Goodbye.